This is Terms of Reference. I'm your host, Stephen Laddick. Miki Agrawal is a co-founder of Thinx, a revolutionary women's underwear company that solves a problem for women in the developed world and women in the developing world during their time of the month. She was a recipient of the 2013 Tribeca Film Festival's Disruptive Innovation Award and named 2013's Forbes Top 20 Millennials on a Mission. She's also the founder of the acclaimed farm-to-table alternative pizza concept called Wild in New York City. I spoke with Miki in Brooklyn. Hi there, Miki. Thank you so much for being on the Terms of Reference podcast today.
Absolutely. Happy to be here.
Where are you sitting today, Miki?
I am in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, hipster heaven.
Super hip. And, it's interesting. Williamsburg, Brooklyn on September 11th, we're having this conversation. Interesting day to be talking. I hope that
I actually forgot that it's September 11th, but I do have a crazy September 11th story if you want to hear it in 2 seconds.
Ooh, I want to hear you. We could swap crazy September 11th stories. Awesome.
Great. So, great. It's, so September 1st, 2001, I started officially my job in investment banking. And I was working at Deutsche Bank, where my subway stop every single morning was to World Trade Center. I'd spent like 2 months sort of training for Deutsche Bank at the sort of investment banking analyst program, and then officially started my job September 1st. So my subway stop every morning was to World Trade Center. I would go upstairs, get tea with my girlfriend Laura, who worked on the 100th floor at Aon, and then I would walk across the street to my office. And 9/11 happened. Can't believe it's now almost 14 years ago.
Yeah,
has it been 14 years?
14 years.
It feels like it was just yesterday, to be honest. And, on that day, 700 people at my girlfriend Laura's office died. 2 people in my office died. And every one of my friends had these crazy stories of diving underneath cars before shrapnel hit. And it was just crazy stories like that. And for me, that was like the first time in my life that I slept through my alarm clock. I missed the whole thing. I was supposed to be there, but completely missed it.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was the only day in my life. I'm the lightest sleeper, so I've never, ever slept through my alarm clock in my life except for that one single day. So
did it change your life?
It absolutely did. And, that was sort of my aha moment. And I was, lucky in that I was 22 years old and not 32 or 42 to have that moment, come. And so that was sort of like when I realized that the mystery of life is you never know when it's going to end, And so I had to absolutely pursue my passions from that moment on. And so that kind of is what led to my entrepreneurial journey and what kind of led me to pursue my dreams. And so I started by playing soccer professionally and for the New York Magic, trying out for the team and making the team, and then subsequently having 3 ACL reconstructions. So that cut my career short quickly. I worked and had a stint in the film business, working my way up from production assistant to producing commercials and music videos for the likes of Justin Timberlake and Beyonce, and Victoria's Secret was a big client, and it was a pretty cool experience. And that was when I had my first idea, which was born out of a stomach ache. I kept having stomach aches, eating craft service on set, which was just full of processed, crappy food. Just kind of came home one day with a horrible stomach ache and, said enough was enough. And, I Googled it and in my research discovered, the massive processed food industry that was causing so many allergies and so many people to have these horrible stomach issues. And, allergy is based on hormones, antibiotics, pesticides, all the crap that was in food today, preservatives. And so that was the first idea came to me, which was to create an alternative pizza concept in New York City that was made with farm to table, farm fresh ingredients and supported local farms. And this was back in 2004 when no one was talking about organic and farm to table. And so kind of the story, I guess I wrote a book called Do Cool Shit. And the book really kind of, goes through the journey of having this idea to actually opening the first restaurant, how I raised the money, how I got press, how I got New York Times to write about it, and just the kind of the whole story of going from idea to business. So that my first business was called Slice. Now it's called Wild. I have a couple of locations in New York City. They're gluten-free, farm-to-table pizza concepts.
And how much do you still touch those?
Not so much anymore, just because I have the most amazing operating partner now who runs the restaurants, who just does a way better job than me at executing on the restaurant concept. And, and he executes on my vision better than I possibly could. And that was a great lesson for me, was to realize that, you have to, do what you're best at and work on your strengths. And and have other people who are strong in their own sort of departments focus on their strengths. And so when I brought in my business partner to run the restaurants, our numbers doubled instantly that week and tripled that month. And it was so obvious that operations was not my strength, but more, vision, marketing, creative, that whole design was really my strength. And having someone come in and take over operations was the best thing that I could have ever done. And so now I don't have to worry about it except for coming up with new ideas, seasonally.
So new ideas for the restaurant.
Yeah. Again, like it's not, different like ideas for, copy or website. I designed the whole website for, with our web design firm, just like that kind of stuff, like really get to be more creative. And I designed the entire interiors for our Williamsburg greenhouse location, and, just the creative piece and the marketing piece of it are my strengths.
And so is this connected at all to Super Sprouts?
Super Sprouts was actually born out of the restaurants because my twin sister Radha and I were able to kind of sit in the restaurants and watch and observe families and people come in to eat at the restaurant, and kept noticing that when kids came in, they would eat only plain cheese pizza, no green stuff, and would only want to order no vegetables ever on their pizzas. And so we kind of went back and Googled that and discovered, the whole obesity pandemic for the young, for kids today, and that 1 in 3 kids are overweight or obese today, and that this is the first time in history that our children will die before our parents based on what kids are eating today. And so there's a huge, huge need to come up with an idea to get kids to want to eat more vegetables. And so my twin sister Radha drew this really cool, kids menu for the restaurants for a while, and created these characters like Brian Broccoli, who's super strong because broccoli is good for your bones. And, Susie Sweet Pea, super speedy because peas give you energy. And Colby Carrot, super sight because carrots are good for your eyes. And all these vegetable characters, all their superpowers were directly correlated to their nutritional benefit. So kids immediately got to learn about the nutritional benefit of each vegetable through their superpowers. And so as kids are coloring in these kids coloring books at the restaurants, they would, be like, I want to be like Brian Broccoli and be super strong, and would run to the, waitress, tug on her skirt and ask for her piece. And the parents were just flabbergasted. They're like, my kids never eat broccoli, never wanted broccoli, never asked for broccoli. And now they're asking for broccoli. It's crazy. And so it was direct translation from sort of storytelling to action. So that idea grew into a media brand, very much like Sesame Street, was for literacy, and Captain Planet was for the environment, and Dora the Explorers for language learning. Super Sprouts became, this media company that really talks about nutrition education. And so, started off with books, and then, a bunch of videos online, to, live puppet shows, to a salad bar program in high school, in elementary schools around the country, to, that actually changed behavior at kids during lunchtime. When we wrapped the salad bars with the Super Sprouts characters in these cafeterias, kids went from not eating vegetables to a 250% increase in kids taking more vegetables after the Super Sprouts intervention of these salad bars in elementary schools. So it really is direct translation and direct, action from these kids. So from that, now, there's a whole new array of things that are going to come from that, which is food and a TV show and subscription model. It's a whole thing. So Radha has really taken the reins with that and grown that. No, it was just kind of allowed for room for me to work on Thinx, which is what I'm working on now full time as the CEO.
I was going to say, so you've got to bridge the gap for me. How the heck did Thinx come about? Tell us that story, because that's how I found you.
Yeah. Well, again, you look at all these businesses, and they all have the underlying sentiment that necessity is the mother of invention, right? And the first idea, the restaurants, were born out of a stomach ache. And the second idea, Super Sprouts, was born out of this horrible obesity pandemic that's affecting our children. And now the third thing is a very natural occurrence for women. When I was running from one restaurant to another, I kept having these monthly period mishaps where I'd forget to change my tampon or pad, and I'd have to run home and change and interrupt my day, put the sweater around my waist, the whole 9 yards, like that all girls and women have experienced in their lifetime. Finally one day, my sister and I, actually, the big idea came when my twin sister Radha and I were defending our 3-legged race championship final in our family barbecue called Agropalooza. And we were, we're twins. So, when you're like doing three-legged race, it's kind of like cheating because you're like the genetic clone of one another. So this is why we're like 10-year rating champions. But during the three-legged race championship final, my sister Rada started her period. And we had to sprint past the finish line, in first place, obviously, and rush to the bathroom still tied to each other so my sister could change out her bathing suit bottoms. And I remember as we were washing out her bathing suit bottoms, we were like, oh my God, wouldn't it be amazing if we created a pair of underwear that never leaked, never stained, that absorbed, that actually supported women when they had their periods? And that was the first ding, ding, ding aha moment to come up with a period underwear concept. And then cut to 2010 when I was traveling to South Africa during the World Cup, my first World Cup ever to experience in South Africa, which was so magical. I got a chance to really kind of travel the outskirts of Johannesburg and to go to Lesotho and Swaziland and go to different really poor parts of South Africa and, met a group of girls. One particular girl, asked her, why aren't you in school? And she said to me, it's my week of shame. And I was like, your week of shame? What are you talking about? She said to me, well, when I have my period, I stay at home. And I said, why? And she said, well, I tried using old bits of, old rags and old bits of mattresses and mud and bark and whatever I can find, but none of it worked. And so eventually I just stay at home during that week. And I was just could not believe it and could not believe that in my years of traveling, never considered, even thought about what were girls using to manage their periods in the developing world. I mean, it's just not something you think about. When I came back, I was really, really angry and upset for these girls and discovered that over 100 million girls are missing a week of school when they have their periods. In fact, it's actually, I think the number is 250 million girls are staying at home during their periods. And it's just a really, really crazy repercussions that come from girls missing weeks of school, and then millions of those girls dropping out of school can cause real damage to communities as a whole, because women are very much more, if you're a productive woman in a developing community, you're more likely to give most of your money back to your community and your family compared to a man. And so having millions of girls dropping out of school because of their periods, that creates a huge, huge, loss of income potential for communities as a whole. Anyway, so through all that, came back and kind of looked at, and what kind of business model can we create that really supports girls and changes the story here? And then looked at, existing offerings in the first world. And we're like, wait a minute, let's look at the timeline of feminine hygiene in the first world and realize that tampons were invented in 1931 by a man. Realize that, the last innovation was in 1969 when they put the adhesive strip underneath the pad to prevent it from moving around. Before that, women had to use menstrual belts, clips, and pins to hold the pad in place. And then 1980s was when the introduction of menstrual cups. And so really in the entire 20th century, only, 3 real innovations in feminine hygiene. So it's just been so crazy. And so what we set out to do was to create a pair of underwear that had these properties that made them leak and stain resistant, absorbent, antimicrobial, moisture wicking, and just gave women peace of mind and supported women every single day of the month without having to worry ever again about having an accident. And then we found an organization in Uganda called AfriPads that they produce washable, reusable cloth pads for girls at a really affordable price. And these cloth pads, like a cloth pad kit, lasts a girl over a year and costs very little money to make. And so what we've done is for every pair of underwear, Thinx underwear that supports women here, we fund a pack of reusable menstrual pads to girls in Uganda. And to date, we've helped over 25,000 girls go back to school.
Wow.
Which is really cool. Yeah.
That's super cool. Is there any process of any part of the manufacturing of the underwear that you're making right now? There's no process. Is it all taking place in the States, or?
Which part?
Of actually the other underwear, not the AfriPads part.
Yeah, the underwear is being produced actually in Sri Lanka at this really amazing manufacturing company that was named the best manufacturing company to work for in Asia for the last 10 years. They, empower their women. They give them, exceptional training. They pay them 2.5 times the wage of regular workers, regular factory workers. Their conditions, I visited the factory 3 times, and the factories are just, are the most state-of-the-art factories, super efficient. They work on a Six Sigma principle. It's really, really exciting to be working with these partners who have, are values driven.
What's your biggest challenge right now? It sounds, like everyone in the world, we like to, it's very easy to talk about our successes. It's very easy to talk about what's going right. What's the biggest challenge for Thinx right now?
Yeah, I think it's just sort of managing the growth right now. I mean, we went through a real intense company reorg in the last few months and dealt with some, real culture issues in the company. And that, we've really, really spent the last 6 months working very, very hard on our company culture. And now it's like we're an absolutely fantastic family, and everyone's, in the roles that they should be in. And it's, we're super proud of that. And so the next big sort of hurdle is to really manage growth and to have the right inventory amounts available to our customers. I mean, right now we're in pre-order and we've oversold quantities and so now we're really on back order, and just managing inventory, understanding sort of what that sweet spot is. 'Cause you don't want to have too much inventory, but you don't want to have too little either that you can't grow. And it's such a game of sort of understanding what your sweet spot is. And so that's kind of the big issue we're working with right now.
And do you only sell online, or do you have retail stores?
Nope, we sell entirely 100% online.
And so you hold your inventory somewhere,
We hold our
undisclosed location?
Yeah, we have a warehouse. Yeah, we have a really good warehouse company that picks, packs, and ships our product.
So for those of us listening to this story, you came up with this idea one day, with your sister at a barbecue. Tell me about the jumping off point. So it was a great idea, and I guess you already had the experience of starting a couple other organizations. Did you pull the funds out of your own pocket? Did you sort of bootstrap it? Did you go out and create a plan and then shop it around? How'd you do that?
Yeah, well, the first thing we did was we launched a Kickstarter campaign. Kickstarter is really cool because it's now a place that you can really prove a concept, whether it can work or not, or whether you have enough fight in you to push it through and get the funding you need. And so we set out a goal of $50,000 on Kickstarter, and we raised $65,000 on Kickstarter. And then we, won a $25,000 cash prize, beating out 300 teams for this Crowdfund X challenge. And then we raised another $20,000 on Indiegogo because we realized that Kickstarter can't really tell their mission story. They only want to tell product-driven stories. And so we got to tell a bit more of our mission, so raising the 20K there. And then throughout all of that, we were pre-selling a bunch of product on our website. So total, we kind of pre-sold like $110,000 worth of product in about like 45 days, which really gave us the ability to place our first 3,000 unit run. That was it. And then we went and raised more. And then we went and raised an angel round, and then a seed round, and then a Series A round. So we closed a bunch of funding after that.
What's the talent like that you're attracting? Who are the people who are interested in working for this organization?
Oh my gosh, I've never felt luckier in my entire life for the kind of talent that we have working day in, day out. How passionate they are about our mission, and how passionate they are about our product, and how everyone is so vested in the success of this company. Yeah, I mean, we've attracted just young, hungry, driven, hardworking, creative, passionate, brilliant young minds. I mean, it's just really, really special. And, every department that we have, whether it's marketing, whether it's digital strategy, whether it's customer service, whether it's operations, whether it's, design and creative. I mean, everyone is an expert in their particular fields, or they've become an expert in their fields. I mean, I would say two of my best employees now, they were working full time during the day and going to night school, to get their master's in branding or getting their master's in digital strategy. And, it's really, really special to watch, young people who are 22, 23, 24 years old, choose not to go out and drink, and choose not to go out and just hang out, but actually go to school and are just thirsty to learn. Like this week, I sent 4 of them to this inbound marketing conference in Boston, and, they're all just sponges in learning about, the best practices in marketing and inbound marketing, and, the best ways to talk about your business and to talk about something boring, how to make something boring interesting. And, all these things, and they just love learning, and you can't teach that. And I would say that if you have a mission, if you're a mission-driven company, people feel like they have a purpose too. It's not just building a business for the dollars, but it's really changing the world. I mean, we are bringing the conversation of menstruation management, of feminine hygiene periods, to the forefront of today's culture. And I would say Vice and BuzzFeed and Forbes and all these organizations are publication are writing about the subject through the lens of our innovation. And it's just cool, and it's it's humbling, and And obviously there's so much work to be done, and, it's just the beginning, but to be able to finally, after, 3 years of struggling, and, it's like walking uphill with boulders on your back in like molasses.
Tell me a little bit about that, because we didn't hear about much of the struggle. So what kind of struggles? Like, give us a sense of, was it just different design failures that,
we just had every issue known to man, whether it be just manufacturing problems, to delays and delays and more delays, to website issues, like complete website failures, to design, failures, to choosing like wrong developers, to choosing wrong, like legal counsel, to choosing like bad tax account. I mean, there's just like every like you can imagine, like, like this year I remember like just literally 2 days ago, my CFO comes up to me and she's like, our taxes have been sent off today. I mean, I signed them all. She's like, you signed all these documents. We're sending them off 9 days early. And like last 3 years we've been late and paying like late penalties and all sort of stuff. And like this year we're like 9 days early. We're like, the IRS is not even going to know who we are. And it's so cool to see our company like tightening up all these like pieces that have been flying around like recklessly for so long into a real business. I mean, every one of my employees have health insurance now. I mean, and not just any health insurance, but Blue Cross Blue Shield, like the best health insurance ever. And like, it's just, we've had, again, like such a struggle with culture and such a struggle with like butting heads within like, these two.
Unpack that a little bit for me, because, I'm looking on your website right now, the team that you have. I'm going to guess part of the culture is there's one man and, what is it, 7 women?
No, now it's like 17 women and 1 man.
Okay, 17. And so, but unpack some of the culture issues for me. Like, what's one of the top 1 or 2 that you guys been dealing with?
We just had like some wrong fits that we had, that we've now, like eliminated from the company. And we've had some, when you're small and you're having to do everything with 5 people, and you're working on stuff that you're not necessarily good at, it becomes like stressful, versus now having, 18 people, we're able to really have everybody focus on what they're best at. And when you're focusing on what you're best at, you're happier. And so it's much less stressful. And like now kind of like the problematic kind of members have kind of, self-selected themselves out of the business. And it just took time to get there. And, it was just a very, very stressful first 2 years of for any startup. It's just stressful. And when things go wrong, you only have a few people in the room that can solve the problems. And, we went from packing our own product ourselves to shipping them ourselves to, to having to like bringing all of our product to warehouse ourselves, and then like receiving product that like was not right and was ruined, and we didn't have money to like remake the production because we didn't have the guarantees in place. I mean, like, it's just like to throw away like thousands of pairs of underwear that cost us tens of thousands of dollars. It's just one thing after another. It was just like one problem after another. Now that we have like incredible manufacturing partners, we have, the right team in place doing, firing at the right pace. I'm just filled with gratitude every single day because of what we've experienced in the last 2.5 years,
Is this the next 5 years for you? Or is this going to be like Wild, where you kind of continue to spin it up until you're comfortable and then you hand it off? Or are you going to continue to be the face of the company?
Absolutely. This is it. This is
the one.
Passion. And I mean, I will say, like, I'm working on a side project too, but it's a weekend project called Tushy, which is bringing bidet attachments to America and also helping solve the global sanitation crisis. And that's sort of my other side business I'm working on, which I'm building a team for that as well. But I would say like menstruation and sanitation are 2 of the biggest problems in the developing world, in our world. And, 40% of the world don't have proper sanitation. And so my website Tushy launches in a couple of weeks. And it's bringing bidet attachments to American toilets and kind of upgrading American sort of standards of cleaning their bottoms. And at the same time, just like Thinx, we're helping, solve the feminine hygiene problem in the developing world. We're helping solve the global sanitation crisis, which, right now, like 1 child dies every 17 seconds because of poor sanitation. It's a huge problem, and it can be fully solved if, we put our minds together. So these are 2 passion projects I will be passionate about for the rest of my life, most likely, until the problems are solved. Yeah, I mean, gender equality is at the forefront of it all. And Thinx is really a beautiful feminist brand that's not beating men up. It's talking about empowering women and in a really authentic way. And Tushy also is just, a passion project of mine. I'm half Japanese, and the Japanese households, every one of them has a bidet. And I also, I'm also half Indian, where in India they have bidets, even if half the population is quite poor. So, sanitation, feminine hygiene, I talk about the vagina and the butthole. If I can own the vagina and the butthole, I win. That's kind of like the line that I've been using.
There's a lot of, that's true. So tell me about, have there been uncomfortable conversations with men, or has it been support, or?
No,
on that side of the fence.
A lot of people are like, it's completely like unladylike to talk about something like your period because it's like poop. Like no one talks about taking a shit. Like no one does, and it's unbecoming, and it's, you don't need to talk about this stuff. And we're like, yeah, but if it's holding women back, and if it's causing real problems for women, then yes, we do need to talk about it. It's definitely a point of real debate and contention and challenge. And, it's not just men that have this reactions, women too. A lot of women are very uncomfortable talking about this stuff.
For sure. Miki, the final question I have for you is one that I end every interview with, and it's a little different in your case simply because you're a serial entrepreneur. You've been doing this over and over again, and your level of passion is intense. How does someone replicate your kind of success? What kind of critical advice would you give to someone who is that 22-year-old 15 years ago, or someone who's woke up one day and said, I just can't go to work again. I have an idea. Is there one or two things that you would advise them to get to where you are?
I think it's just having a undying thirst for knowledge and just complete, an authentic curiosity to learn and grow and be part of something that's mission driven. I really believe that, purpose builds motivation. And if a young entrepreneur wants to just build a business to make money, their flame might fade. Whereas if they're working towards, solving a problem and through a product or building an innovation or starting a business that has a mission attached to it that really solves a world problem, you'll be passionate about it and excited to talk about it, and you'll attract amazing partners and amazing talent to work with you because of the mission. People want to feel like they have purpose. That to me was the biggest game changer for me. I would also say, people keep asking me, I have so much passion within myself. I don't know what to start. Like, what do I create? How do I create this? Like, how do I come up with an idea to start somewhere? And I kind of broke it down to 3 steps. Step 1 is you ask yourself, what sucks in my world? What sucks in my world? So for me, having stomachache sucks in my world. Having period stains sucks in my world. Having a dirty butthole sucks in my world. Second question is, does it suck for a lot of people? 1 in 5 Americans are lactose intolerant. 1 in 5 Americans eat gluten-free. The processed food industry is, causing a lot of allergies for people. Every single woman has had a period accident. Every American is walking around probably with a little bit of poop on their butts. So what sucks in my world? Does it suck for a lot of people? And the third question is, can I be passionate about this issue, cause, or community for a really, really long time? It takes 10 years to be an overnight success. You can't assume that you're going to build the next Instagram. It's just not going to happen. That's like winning the lottery. You have to be ready to settle into something for 10 years at least. And if you're not ready for that, then it's not the right business for you. So that weeds out stuff like, I want to start another t-shirt company, or I want to start a clothing brand, or I want to start another restaurant that's one of many. It's how do you create something that's one of one through this lens of what sucks in the world that I can solve and be passionate about for a really long time. I think once you kind of go through that lens, you'll be able to really come up with an idea that works for you and that works for the world.
Miki, this has been a fascinating conversation. I really, really appreciate your time today.
Absolutely.
You've been listening to the Terms of Reference podcast from 8preneur.com. Subscribe to us on iTunes.